Hello and welcome to another episode of our Innovator Studio here at the Innosabi headquarters in Munich. My name is Julia Schmidt and I'm very happy and very honored to be here today with Dr. Bettina von Stamm. She's a real innovation expert. She calls herself an innovation catalyst, philosopher, and has a long experience in the field of innovation. But it's really special, more than 25 years already. So, Bettina, my first question to you is, what did you experience in these 25 years in the corporate context? How did the concept of innovation management change?
I think that is a very interesting question. Thank you very much. For me, a lot has changed when I first started in the early 90s to think about innovation, attempting to understand why innovation was or wasn't happening in organizations. And one of the key changes for me is the scope of innovation. And I also always like to say, of course, we have always innovated. And all the categories that I'm going to mention in a moment have always existed. Mm. What has changed and what has changed over time is the degree to which we deliberately and proactively seek to create these kinds of innovation. And so when I started, innovation wasn't really called innovation in most organizations, what called new product development. And new product development, so it was innovation around products more than anything else that companies were proactively seeking to generate. Then they also realized that in order to do better products, they probably also need to innovate around processes. And again, it has always happened, but the attempt to do it deliberately has changed. And then we had a whole period where people started to talk about service innovation. So from product to process to service. And in the early 2000s, we had business model innovation with a business model canvas. And again, people have always undertaken business model innovation, yet not deliberately, proactively before. Another sort of half a decade later, we started to talk about social innovation, i.e. innovation that is motivated by improving the status quo socially and environmentally rather than for pure profit reasons, even though these innovations can often be very profitable. Mm-hmm. And something that I've added more recently is societal innovation, so that it is the changes that are necessary in our society in order to deal with the challenges that we as humanity are facing. Mm-hmm. And it is no one organization, no one country even that can solve these problems. So it is at a much larger scale. And I think that is also what is happening from moving from product through to societal innovation is the fact that product innovation was one department in the organization. Mm-hmm. So it was like their responsibility. If you move from product to process, you already need to involve more people. If you move from product to process to services, again, it's sort of a broader range of people who needs to be involved. Exactly. Business model innovation affects the entire organization. And so the number and variety of different people who need to get involved in innovation has changed dramatically. Mm-hmm. And while that seems to have happened, I think where we are lacking behind is to develop the tools and mindsets that allow us to move from the mindset that was focused on product innovation, where people of similar mindsets were doing stuff together, to get really to the other spectrum of societal innovation, where we need people of all kinds of different mindsets, yes, who even if they want to work together, sometimes struggle because of the different value systems they have and different mindsets they have. Yeah. So it was quite a long answer, I think.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. Thank you for this big overview, because we can see the innovation today is very connected, and it is in every little part of our lives, and in every part of an organization. It has to be present. It has to influence, and has to trigger the development and foster the development. Absolutely. So what is your advice for companies? How can you foster this innovation culture? Because as you said, often in our mindsets, we are still in a bit on another level or in another time. But now innovation is so omnipresent and so important that we have to live it in our daily activities, no matter where.
Yes, I think one of the things that continues to surprise me in a way is that when I ask, everyone thinks innovation is so important. You find it in all the annual reports, you find it on all the websites, the company values and whatnot. And yet when you then ask people, so what is your definition of innovation? Mm-hmm. The answer I still get mostly is, well, we haven't really got one. And how can you expect people to deliver innovation when there's even no agreement what actually it is? Mm-hmm. So that would be one recommendation. Understand what innovation means for your organization in your specific context and define that. And it will not only be one type of innovation. It is most likely you want to, if you look at the different types of innovation I mentioned, there are also different levels of innovation, from incremental to radical to transformational. So you get a whole, I always call it the Innovation Scape. So you've got this whole scape, and I think organizations need to be very clear where they want to play and why they want to play there. Mm-hmm. And then define what the different boxes in the matrix that you have, what they mean in the context of their organization. Yeah. Because success factors are different in each of those different boxes. So if you want to succeed with incremental product innovation, you need to have a different approach than if you want to have radical or even transformational business model innovation. So that requires different structures that actually support that. So I think that is probably the most important starting point. Mm-hmm. If you want to move anywhere with innovation, to define what innovation means to you, why you want it, and then you can figure out what you need to put in place in order to support it.
That is very interesting. Thank you so much for your input. It
My
was
pleasure.
Very nice having you here today. And let's see how innovation will be defined in the future. Let's see how it will develop. That's the next very interesting chapter in this whole development of innovation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was my great pleasure to be here. And one thing is for certain, the path of innovation doesn't end. It is an endless journey where there's always something else around the corner.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.